Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hey, thanks for joining for another show here tonight. I'm really excited to be able to talk and chat with EJ. EJ is a card dealer. He's also a promoter of card shows. He has a lot of experience with the Bourbon Card Show and also the Newport Card Show. I know we'll get a chance to talk to him here in a second. We're going to go ahead and bring him in, but I just want to say thanks to everyone who joined. I see we have Chucky and Jacked in here in the chat, so I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and bring him in here. Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on, Cdub? How's it going, guys on the chat and guys that's watching on YouTube? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm excited to be a part of the Cdub family, and man, I'm a huge fan, and I appreciate all the love and support. So excited to finally be on.
Oh, that's really cool, man. I appreciate that. It's cool to be able to have you on as well. I'm really excited. You know how excited I get about the Burbank Card Show. So I'm looking forward to being able to just talk a little bit more about that. Maybe talk a little bit about just the work and just some of the things that people may not see who go to the show. Like maybe they're not really familiar with like some of the work and some of the things that go into it. But to me, I'm looking forward to just being able to learn more about that and just even learn more about you and your background. So how long have you actually been in the hobby? Like, can you give us like a little bit of a background intro on yourself, just so people have an idea of who you are?
I mean, it seems like everybody has the same mirrored, well, at least my age, right? So I'm a millennium, right? So I feel like everybody has that same LeBron James as a rookie or going to be in the draft type of chase. And we got into the hobby. My hobby origin starts way before that. Actually, I was about 5 years old, and I remember when there was a guy named Afro. My dad used to call him Afro 8, and that was Kobe, and that was a young Kobe. So at the time, it was 1997, 1998, and I just actually came here from the Philippines. So, of course, being Filipino, you're automatically watching the Lakers. And I was actually a Laker hater for a while. I was joining the Jailblazers. I was on the Sacramento Kings team. I was that guy. But for some odd reason, man, number 8 never let me become a hater of his. And I became a huge Kobe fan growing up. And, of course, growing up, older cousins, they collected basketball cards and all types of collectibles and things like that. But of course, we all shared the same love for Kobe. And of course, when LeBron came in, I actually had myself and my cousin, we were such huge fans of the game worn and game used cards. And I was actually a big fan of Jason Richardson. Okay. Slam dunk champion, and I started collecting the Jason Richardson game used cards. At the time, they were game used, right? So, game used cards were my jam. I actually preferred those over the autographs back in the day. That was kind of my origin, and I kind of got back into it 2009, 2010 when I went to college. I went to college in Santa Clara, and of course, 2009 was the last year of Topps basketball. Of course, Steph Curry's rookie year, being in Santa Clara, being a Warrior, Warriors area, we weren't really giving two messes about the Warriors. So, I was out here chasing. I was actually trying to chase Tyreke Evans, who was the rookie year. So it was Tyreke Evans, and then I was chasing. Don't judge me, guys. I was chasing Johnny Flynn as well. So it was tough. And here and there, I would get back into it. And of course, 2018, 19, I actually had a buddy that started to really collect, and then my nephew got into Pokemon, and we'd go to swap meets and things like that. And there was a dealer out there that had nothing but Pokemon cards, but on the very side of his booth, he had basketball cards. And I still have this picture till this day. And I look back at it as kind of a remembrance of how far I've came from this one time as a kid, this hobby that I love, and now being a part of this industry and being the event director of one of the biggest card shows in the world. It's definitely humbling, and I haven't looked back ever since. So that's kind of my small little card origin right there.
Nice. Okay, no, I appreciate that. So who do you? For people who may not know, who do you PC, and do you PC cards that you would never sell, or would you consider selling those?
Right. So I've started I've started a pretty huge kind of like exodus of like random PCs that I've done. I used to have, of course, the Jason Richardson PC. I used to have, of course, to this day, I'm known to have a UNC. I'm a big North Carolina Tar Heels fan. So
Yeah.
I had to kind of step back and be like, I don't think I need a Topps Chrome Raymond Felton gold refractor or red refractor out of 5. So I ended up putting those up for sale. But of course, my forever PC is actually two guys, and that's Kobe Bryant and Steph Curry. And Kobe, just because, of course, I grew up a Kobe fan, kind of in the closet Kobe fan because I was a Laker hater. But at the same
Okay.
time, man, I was a huge Kobe fan. When everybody was hating on the space shoes, Kobe's. I was a huge fan of those shoes, man. Like I made sure I had my mom and dad buy me those shoes. And even though I got clowned on at school, like if you knew, you knew, right? So Kobe was forever. And then of course Steph Curry is just, to me, I get a lot of flack for it now, but I think in about like 5-10 years, I think people are going to realize how great of a player Steph Curry really, really is. And what he's done to the game and what he's changed the game for. And I honestly felt that he's changed the game for better. He's allowed shooters to really get that shine beyond just that one-dimensional player. Steph Curry, in my honest opinion, is that guy. So I'm starting surely, but we're gonna start. I have this little guy with me, and I love this piece because it's kind of a epitome of who I am and what I believe. And so I'm really, really pumped to get that started. But I won't be lying to you, Cdub. There's some stuff I PC, and I'm like, why did I start this? Like, but also my forever PC. I think a lot of people don't know I'm a big wrestling fan. I'm a huge wrestling fan. If you guys could see, this took an arm and a leg for me to persuade my wife to have my little area, and really,
Nice.
really proud of it. I'm a huge toy fan, so that's my PC right there.
Got it. So as far as like the wrestling and the action figures, like how long did it take you to collect all those guys, like to gather all those? I mean, was that
Oh
over
man,
a period
I've
of time or?
I've been I've been collecting wrestling figures again, like same situation as being a Kobe fan and a Laker hater. I've
Yeah.
been like a closet wrestling figure collector since I was like in middle school. And I
Mm,
remember back in the day, 60 pounds ago, I used to play basketball and I played in high school and all that. We'd have AAU trips, we'd have travel ball trips. And, of course, the late night trips, we'd go to Walmart, do our thing. And of course, I'd kind of sneak into the toy section a little bit. And most of my teammates knew Stone Cold. They knew they knew The Rock, they knew Undertaker, they knew, all the guys, Kurt Angle, but they didn't know the new guys. And at the time, I was kind of stashing these figures. And it wasn't until I was in college where I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm in college. Whatever, I'm not going to hold anything to myself anymore. So if
yeah.
you guys see me on Facebook and this and that, man, I'm all about it. And I don't ever want to be a closet collector, as you guys should not, because it's your PC or your collection or your hobbyism is an extension of you. And going off at card shows and traveling at shows, all my friends know I'm a huge wrestling fan. So whenever there's a big wrestling signer at a show that no one honestly doesn't really care about because everybody's there for the sports cards, I'm over here hanging out with the wrestlers and kind of fanism, because there's a fanism part of it too, right? And but yeah, that's how I genuinely started, and I actually sold my collection in before when COVID happened. Um, and I deeply regret it. So now I'm building it, and by the grace of God, we've built it quite a bit since getting back into it.
Nice. All right, so let's transition to talk a little bit more about the Burbank Card Show. We know that's coming up in 3 weeks. I mean, just quickly, like, how are you feeling right now? Like, we're only 3 weeks away. How are you feeling about it? Like, I know you put in a lot of work for it up to this point, but kind of where are you at this point?
I mean, simply put, man, I mean, we've worked so hard, myself, Jay, Rob, and our team, that it's like our first show. Our first show
Mm,
was somewhat cloudy. It wasn't actually. I started seeing you pumping it and showing your excitement that I got excited, because for
yeah.
me it's like I'm in the back and I'm not seeing what's really being built. I'm building the building from inside, so I don't really know how it looks outside, right? Of course, you hear the hype of it and you hear all the stuff. I was at the National and everyone's bringing up, oh, like can't wait for your show, and I'm over here like, you guys are coming to our show? I'm as green as possible as well. I don't ever want to act like I'm this professional or expert when it comes to running or being a promoter at a show, because really what I do is I see how other card shows perform, and I see what they have, what they don't have, the positives and the negatives, and we build it upon that. Of course, utilizing the Burbank experience and what Burbank Sports Cards is known for is huge. But simply put, we work so hard that we kind of have to kind of just let it go, right? And just like, you know what? This is all we can. We have on-site grading. We have the best dealers in the country. It's like one of those things to where it's like, what else can we do? Of course, there's a lot more that we can do future tense, right? But at the same time, what we have right now, what we have on our plate, what can we make the best of it? And if we could look in the mirror and be like, hey, look, this is what we can do. This is what we've done. And we're just going to do it. And now I'm pretty pumped now, because the first show, it was so cloudy. Now it's like, okay, now we could really build upon it. And I've said this multiple times, like, it's a Southern California show. It's premised on the foundation of Southern California and California as well. So it's not just my show. It's not just Rob's show. It's not just Jay's show. It's Cdub show. It's the folks in SoCal show. It's the folks in NorCal show. It's the folks that aren't able to go to a national, aren't able to go to a Dallas, right? And being able to have our show that we call our own, that's considered a big show, is such a huge and humbling ability to be able to be a part of it as well as lead it. So I'm very humbled and there's of course there's weights and there's other things that go upon it, right? But I think the biggest thing that the misconception behind running card shows is that it's hard. Yeah, it's hard because there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of that, but at the same time, you just kind of have to just let it ride. You gotta let it fly, man. You gotta be like Curry sometimes, just let it fly, because you practice so hard and you've done your thing that at the end of the day, if you do what you plan to do and what you're prepared to do, it's going to work out.
Nice. So you mentioned Rob. We know Rob is from Burbank. He's the Burbank, the main guy over here down in Southern California with Burbank. And then Jay's Jay's from the Premier Show, and Jay has all kinds of experience as well. What is it like working with those guys? Like, give us an idea of what it's like just working with him.
I mean, when and we'll get into this because I was looking at the questions pretense and I laughed because Jay and I have history together. Jay's kind of like, I'll save Jay a little bit, but I'll say this: Jay's like working with the uncle you don't like. Like, you have like Cdub, you have that cool uncle that has the low rider, you got that cool uncle that's hip to the trends and everything, and then you got that uncle that has 5 degrees, he's about the book type of thing. That's Jay, that's who he is. And Rob and I are a bit more the same than we're very fast paced, we're very outgoing guys, very straight to the point. We talk a lot. We're very, very big on people, and not saying that he's not a people person, but due to his job title, he's definitely not a people person. But it's also one of those things that you need a Jay to make this work. I've always said this, and it's funny, it's a joke between the three of us. I hate saying nice things about Jay, and I would never say this in front of his face. But Jay, in my soul of opinion, is the best logistics director in our industry. This man is as polished as could be. He's as direct as it could be. This man is like, he'll say some things that you and I probably won't have the guts to say, right? Like, he doesn't care 2 messes about someone's influence or someone's job title or whoever, how high they are in an industry or our sponsors. Like, he'll say it as it is, because there's things that we have to cohere with Fire Marshal. There's things that we have to cohere with the convention center. And may I add, the Ontario Convention Center, we'll talk more about it later in the interview, but they've been nothing but great to us. So to be able for Jay, because Jay's from the Inland Empire, or he lives out there, and to be able to cohere that with his abilities of management and logistical directing and things of that nature, it's huge. He's the heart of our show. Rob and I get to do the fun stuff. We get to go on podcasts and we get to go, we get to go to Dallas. We get to go hang out at the National. We get to, do all the fun stuff that Jay doesn't necessarily get to do. But it's things like that makes a great team is being able to understand that there's a common denominator when it comes to the job at hand. And of course, same with Rob. I mean, for those of you guys that have never met Rob, whatever you see on Instagram, that's who he is. I mean, the guy is Energizer Bunny times 5. I mean, the dude has incredible pace, even at his age. I mean, the guy's like 95 years old, but at the same time, like, dude has more energy than me. He wakes up at 5 a.m. I wake up early. I pride myself in waking up early. At the same time, that dude always beats me out. And then, of course, he does his 8 o'clock Instagram lives or Instagram videos of kind of his thoughts. And for those of you guys that's ever seen the Card Father in action, you guys know he's not afraid. And that's the beauty of it for us too, and being able to work with these brands. I get a lot of question all the time is how do you get to work with these brands? How do you get these brands to come to your show? And honestly, it's full transparency is what can you do for that company? It's not necessarily what can that company do for you. What can you do for that company so that company could scale big? And that's what all three of us have our minds at. And working with it's definitely the dream team for sure, because you have the Michael Jordans, you have this, and of course you got Charles Barkley. You got John Stockton, you got, so we're definitely a dream team. It's not necessarily the team that's more by choice, right? It's more by like accidental achievements there. And of course, like what you said, Jay runs the premiere show, and he's done an incredible job with that. So it only makes sense that he's a part of this. So no, we're definitely a team. And but going back to Jay, he's definitely that uncle that you don't like. And there's text messages and calls that I'll get from him, and I'm just like, man, I want to beat this guy up. And there's other times when I would text his son Ken, who's more like me, right? And I'm like, Ken, what is up with your dad? What did he eat this morning? But at the same time, man, I mean, look, like, you're gonna always have that teammate that is not necessarily your cup of tea, but at the same time, he makes the better out of you, and that's a partnership that I'm very, very proud of.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I've gotten to know Jay. I've gotten to learn a lot of things from him just over the years. Just me and my dad being able to go to like the premiere show and stuff, and he's really cool. He's always been really just helpful to us. Just even me kind of getting back in the hobby, like helping me just learn about different things and share knowledge with me. So I really appreciate that about him for sure. Now, Rob, I've been able to talk to Rob at the Burbank show, but haven't really had a lot of interactions with him. But from what I see on Instagram, like, I definitely agree with you. Like, he's super. When I talk to him in the store, it's just like what I see on Instagram. It's just the same thing, And so he's always dropping knowledge too on his Instagram reels. So I appreciate that just for the hobby as well. So okay. So speaking of the hobby, what's one thing that we can do now that we can do to possibly make the hobby better, or anything along those lines that comes to your mind when you hear that? What can we do to make the hobby better? Or maybe even that's not the best way to phrase it, but something that we can improve.
No, there's always room for improvement in everything, including our industry and our hobby. I think going back to what I had mentioned about Rob. I mean, there's no one that loves this industry and this hobby more than Rob. I mean, this guy has done so much. Even yesterday, they had a kids trade night, and I'll disclose it. I mean, even though he'll get mad at me, Rob was definitely just burnt out. Like, you could tell that he was really tired, and even he told me, hey, just go handle this and just handle it on your own. And even then, I have a huge plate on my head too, so I'm over here trying to scramble. Myself and Jay, we're trying to scramble as well. But I think the biggest thing that I see is the level of acceptance and stepping stones for folks that are somewhat new to our industry and our hobby. I sense that there's more of a barrier of entry, a bigger barrier of entry. Of course, there were folks that were burnt due to markets and of course the years, and it definitely scared some folks off. But I see it every day. There's a new person that's interested in our hobby almost every week there's a friend of mine that's like, yo, man, I just bought my first pack at Target thinking he's gonna find a Cade Cunningham rookie, and I'm over here. He finds a Cade Cunningham only for me to tell him it's worth like it's $2-3. So it's
Right.
things like that like barrier to entry is so huge for us, and that's why we're so big and with saying hi to everybody and making sure that yes, we're Burbank, but we're also not above you type of thing. Like we want to make sure that we interact with everyone and if there's any way that we could help you with your hobbyism to make your transition into your interest for this hobby better, that's kind of our biggest thing. I mean, look, our first show, again, I travel all over the country. I'm a dealer too. Rob
Yeah.
looked at our dealer list and Rob's like, where's all the value guys? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like we had the who's of dealers coming to the first show. And Rob was like who's the dollar guys? I'm like
Hmm.
looking at our list and he kind of got on me because and very rarely does he. Jay gets on me 3 times a day, but Rob very seldom does it. He lets me, he lets me run point guard type of thing. But there was a time where he was like, look, EJ, like in order to succeed in this industry, you have to have price points. And
Hmm.
at the time, of course I knew of that in the back of my head, but I didn't prioritize it. And of course with that we kind of rushed it a little bit, and I'm very proud to say that this next Burbank show, yes, it's going to be huge, it's going to be much bigger, but there's going to be a lot more price points available for folks beyond budgets. And no matter if you bring $50 to the show, $20 to the show, $500,000 to the show, our core goal is very simple, is to have just to have that experience for you guys regardless of that. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I see in our industry is the barrier to entry right now. I know that's going to change. There's so much content on influence and hey, look, I have this $5,000 card, I have this, I have that. Actually, one of my favorite YouTube channels, I totally forget his name, but he has this video, he has this series on how he turns low value cards and sells them on eBay so that he could grow his PC with Steph Curry and things like that. And I love seeing stuff like that because I started with value cards. A lot of people see the thousands of dollars that I have in cards, but they don't know that I used to go to Jimmy's USA at 6 a.m. in the morning, going through value cards, flipping them on eBay, and keep building it up from there. I don't see that much anymore. Now, of course, the Ryans, the CC2s of the world, and those guys have made it more popular. But even then, it doesn't outweigh the guys that are a bit more, on the bigger ticket side. And I think as time progresses, I definitely would love to see a much more open barrier of entry in our industry.
Oh, that's cool, man. No, I appreciate that because, even for me, like, I'm not a high end guy. I'm definitely a low end guy, and I don't really care. Like, I'm just gonna collect what I like, and continue to do that. But yeah, I definitely can see what you're saying as far as like, and especially like you said, if somebody comes in new, right, and they just go to Instagram and they just start looking at stuff, they can be like, man, how am I gonna afford this? If
Right.
they see something that's like 5,000, 10,000 and higher, But yeah, I definitely appreciate that point of view. So as far as okay, so tell us a little bit about this show. We want to talk a little bit about the show that's coming up. How, in your opinion, do you think it'll be different? I know you did mention we're gonna have some on-site grading. Can we talk a little bit about that and what that's gonna look like? How will that impact the show, or maybe just make it better for people who are coming out?
Right. So first off, it's gonna be 5 times bigger. So I'm really really hoping, and we're very much prepared in the event that there is another line, that we want to make sure that line gets shortened, that folks aren't waiting for hours. That's our biggest thing. And again, we don't want to glorify that. Of course, it's humbling for folks to want to come to the show, but at the same time, we don't want folks to wait outside. We want to make sure that it's enough space for folks to walk in. Of course, in the event that we do pass capacity, we want to make sure we cohere with the city of Ontario and the fire marshals and the city officials, and we want to make sure we cohere with the laws. But at the same time, we understand that there's families. Look, I used to wait in line at Frank and Sons. I used to wait in line in the rain at Frank and Sons, and I know how it is. So I'm really sorry for those of you guys that were waiting in line. But that we wanted to solve that quickly. So the Ontario Convention Center is a beautiful convention center. If you guys have ever been, I mean, look, it's not just a big space; it's a beautiful space, and the folks at Ontario have done an incredible job keeping up with it. There's multiple hotels that surrounding it. Our host hotel, the DoubleTree at the Hilton, is our room block hotel, and they're our partners for the show, and it's literally within walking distance of the show. So of course the convenience and the size is there. But of course, like you mentioned, Cdub, on-site grading was always my number one, number two, number three priority when it comes to running a card show. When I signed up for this, I wanted to make sure that my very small PSA relationship would turn into a bigger relationship when it comes showtime. And we've done an incredible job at that. Shout out to everybody at PSA. You know who you are. And PSA gets a lot of flack. They get a lot of flack, and some are warranted, and some are definitely, yes, there's growing pains with running a company like that goes from a certain number in 2019 to a much bigger number in 2020 and 21. So of course they're growing pains as well, but at the same time, PSA has done an incredible job working with us, and I'm really, really excited to announce our partnership with the Long Beach Expo for everybody in Southern California. We have a cool situation that's never been done, as far as I know, where you could use a regular service of I think it's $50. I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that, but it's regular service at the Long Beach Expo, and within in a week, you'll get it back by Burbank. So the Long Beach Expo show is, I believe, February 2nd, 3rd, or starts at February 2nd. So you'll be able to submit your cards at the Long Beach Expo and get them back at the Burbank card show the following week. So that turnaround time is huge. And of course, we'll still have the on-site grading for Thursday with PSA for our VIPs as well as our dealers to get that expedited service, and that will come back to you that same show. And in regards to Beckett will be on site all throughout the show. Beckett will be all full service throughout the show. Of course, we have tag grading. We have yet to announce it officially, but Cdub, I'll let you have kind of the first dibs. Tag grading will be on site at the Burbank card show, and it's going to be huge. Tag, for those of you guys that do not know, is the new player in the game, and they're causing some great links. And we're really, really excited to bring Tag. They'll have a phenomenal setup at the show. I'm not gonna tease it too much, but I'll give you a little Cdub exclusive. You guys ever been to Krispy Kreme, and you guys ever been to the Krispy Kreme off the 91, and you guys used to see that how they make the donuts type of thing? I'll just leave it at that with tag grading, and you'll be able to see that. And then, of course, SGC. SGC has not been back in the West Coast in God knows how long, and we're really, really excited to work with SGC. Huge shout out to Peter, CEO, Brian, and the gang over there at SGC. And for those of you guys that are big on vintage, we wanted to make sure that we had some of the best dealers in the game with vintage, and that should complement with SGC. And, of course, last but definitely not least, and I'm most excited about this, we will have CSG as well as CGC and all their surrounding trading cards, services, comic books, all that, and they will be take-home service. So for those of you guys that are big comic books, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh folks, or if you guys have kids and you're into sports cards, but the kids are into Pokemon and TCG, this is the perfect time to not worry about shipping your stuff all the way to Florida. CSG and the CGC team will be there, and they will be running submissions. So in my honest opinion, we have every grading company that matters at the show, and we wanted to make sure that was the West Coast right there. So there's a lot of talk about a West Coast national or a big West Coast show, and I've talked with with our partners, and we never wanted to be labeled as that. We love the national. I'm a huge fan of the national. Shout out to the team at the national. Look, I'll be there for the rest of my life. I'm sure Cdub will be there, kicking it, man, having dinner, having a good time, looking at cards we definitely cannot afford. But at the same time, our core goal is to be the best we could be. And I think we've done an incredible job. I mean, look at the flyer. The flyer alone is something that I'm truly proud of, not just because I designed it, but also because it's an incredible lineup. And it's something that I'm personally proud of to to be able to bring out for us in the West Coast. But of course, there's people coming out in Great Lakes in the East Coast as well, Midwest, surrounding states, as well as throughout the world. There's going to be some international folks coming to the show. So we're definitely really, really excited.
Nice, man. No, it's definitely evident that you guys have put in a lot of work to build things up and get things where they're at, for this new show. I'm really, really excited. I'm can't wait to go and check it out personally. And it just seems like, honestly, I think my dad made a comment earlier. He's like, it just seems like we were just at the last one, in August. And so, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. So can we go back to something we talked a little bit about earlier? I know you talked about Jay. Jay's your the uncle that you don't like. Now I know you posted something on this on Instagram, and I was like, ever since I saw, I'm like, man, I gotta hear this story. So I want to hear this story. So I know the post said something about how at one point in time Jay kicked you out of the premiere show. Like,
sure, yeah,
really? Like,
yeah.
I can't believe this. But can we hear this story?
Oh man, I'll give you a Cdub, another Cdub exclusive, and shout out Chuck E. By the way, man, I appreciate you with the questions. I'll get back to you after this juicy story. So again, I was a young lad, and of course this was during the pandemic times, right? So this was at the times where Jay and other promoters. I was not a promoter yet. I was just a young flyby guy, and my buddy Coleman Cards. For those of you guys that do not know, Mr. Coleman Cards, he's one of the biggest dealers in the game. Coleman and I had a pending deal, and by the way, if you guys have ever dealt with Coleman, he's one of the most fair guys in the world. So Coleman and I, at one point, we were making deals like every other week. So it was myself and TGI Sean. If you guys don't know Big Sean, Big Teddy Bear Sean. If you guys cannot miss him in Southern California. If you guys know, if you guys have ever seen Big Teddy Bear Sean, you guys know who he is. But just for those of you guys that are watching that do not know Sean's a huge 6'4", 300 pounds of pure muscle. I mean, the man looks like Johnny Bravo. He's an Asian Johnny Bravo, but the man's a teddy bear. The man definitely won't ever kill an ant type of thing. So of course we had our mask on. So, we were very coherent with the pandemic. So we understood, and we weren't anti-mask or anything. We were just trying to get this deal with Coleman done. And of course, Cdub, I don't know if you remember, but those lines at the time were huge. Those were like 2-hour lines. And so what we had did, and I'll snitch on my big homie Mark too, Ultimate Pastime. We went through the back. We went through the back. And I'm not going to disclose who the dealer is because he's a lifer at the premier card show. So I don't want him to get his dealer card revoked. But he got me through. He got me and Sean through, and Mark through, and Mark went the other way. Me and Sean went one way, and Cdub, low key, we made some deals. We had a good hour in there, man. We probably should have made a YouTube vlog about it, thinking about it. Mind you, this was about 4 years ago or 3 years ago. Sorry, and there was Uncle Rico, who's a security guard, and he's like, "Hey, are you a dealer at the show?" And at the time, I just turned around. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a dealer at the show. I'm a dealer at the show." And he goes, "Okay, good." So he walks away, and then I look at Sean and I'm like, "Look, if he comes again, just tell him you're with me." So he comes again, and he sees Sean, and Sean goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm with him." So the guy goes, "Okay, cool." But if you guys don't know Jay, you guys know that Jay sees everything. He has 3 eyes in the back of his head. He has 2 over here. He has 5 over here. He has 1 on his chin. So the guy has his spidey senses locked. And he went up to us and he's like, "Are you guys dealers at the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm with Coleman." Coleman wasn't even there yet. Coleman was not even there. We were waiting for Coleman. And he goes, "I need to see you on the list." So he goes on the list. And at the time, I didn't know his business partner, Kobe. And now me and Kobe, man, we joke around now. But even Kobe was overwhelmed. I'm sure of it. Kobe, again, it's COVID, right? So there's so much going on and everything, right? So they wanted to make sure they cohere before they get shut down. And Kobe goes, I don't know who these guys are. So Jay starts fuming, and Jay goes, you guys need to leave. And I'm like,
Mm.
what? And Cdub, man, for lack of better wording, I was very frustrated. I was very, I'm a red blooded man as well, and I didn't like for another man to give me an attitude and things like that. He could have asked me nicely, and that's why Jay is the logistics director of the show and not the head of marketing at the show. But at the same time, Jay was right. He was completely right. But Sean and I were so devastated. I was so mad that I was like, man, I'm never coming back to the show. I'm going to call him out on Instagram, this, that, the third. We ended up sneaking back like 3 hours later once the show was done. But then I ended up apologizing to Jay at that show. I ended up apologizing to Jay. And Jay still till this day, he said he doesn't remember kicking me out. But Ken, his son, does. And it wasn't until I got comfortable with Jay that I ended up having to tell him the story. And now I can't wait for Jay to show up at Newport Showcase, and I'll kick him out as well. So, but that's kind of the small premise of the story. And I think the beauty of the story was I was really close to like putting an Instagram post up and like, I would never come back to the premiere show. This show's a joke, this, that, the third. And for some odd reason, man, there was a still small voice that was telling me, you know what, man, he did the right thing for his business. He did the right thing for his show. And for some odd reason, I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna let it fly. And I apologized to him. I apologized to him and all that. And it's crazy. About 3 years later, he's my business partner, and it's the wildest thing. And we still joke about it. I mean, Rob knows the whole story of where I've gotten kicking out, where I've got kicked out. I mean, people already know, my whole origin and things like that. But, at the end of the day, I'd like to tell folks that, like, never close a door unless someone else's closes it for you. I've always told that to folks. And, the biggest thing that I've ever done in this industry that I'm very proud of is I've been able to reach multiple doors that were at the time a very reach. A lot of people don't know I come from very humble beginnings. I started with value cards, right? And to be able to now have relationships with some of the biggest names in our industry is very humbling. But at the same time, it's the same playing field. It's the same thing. I mean, look, there's guys that a lot I see in our industry that they put people on a pedestal and things like that. And I'm just like, why? Like, we're all human beings here. We all love cards. Why not? And there's people that are now putting me in a pedestal. And I'm like, yo, guys, I collect action figures for fun. Don't put me on a pedestal. I'm a regular guy like you and I. And I mean, it's humbling now, right? But at the same time, I do go back to that time, that Saturday when Jay kicked me out of his show. And it's very humbling. So yeah, that's the whole story. So if you guys see Jay at the Burbank Card Show, make sure you guys just turn around and hang out with me, and you'll have a lot more fun.
Oh man, that's funny. That's crazy. No, thanks for telling us the story on that. And it's cool, like you said. No, I mean, imagine if you did put that post out there, like that could have changed, everything, right?
Man.
Yeah, and so it's good insight. Like sometimes you don't want to just go with your first initial reaction in situations like that. But but yeah, no, I appreciate that. So what do you think? So actually, if you don't mind, let's go to some of these questions in the chat here.
Sure.
Let's see here. This one says, it's from Chucky. This is my dad right here. This is Pops.
Hey, Chucky. What's up, Pops?
Do you think the hobby will only flourish once Fanatics buys out Panini? What's the inside word? I don't know if we know anything about that, but what do you think about what Fanatics might do when we come in?
So shameless Burbank plug. The Fanatics is definitely a core sponsor of ours. We're definitely proud that and humbled that Fanatics has taken interest in what we're doing in the West Coast, and we're very grateful. And Rob could definitely speak on his relationships on a personal level with the guys over there at Fanatics. I could only speak of the very few conversations that I've had, and I will say this: Fanatics has taken this very seriously. If they wouldn't pause on everything if it wasn't they weren't taking it seriously. They would just come out with product on product on product. And I think they're going to take this to the next level. I think the biggest thing that I will say this is other manufacturers are $1 million companies, right? Fanatics is a $1 billion company, and their reach is much higher, to a point that it's going to probably catapult our overall industry, not necessarily in our value of our cards, but in interest and more folks. And that's why I'm so big on, I was so big on the barrier of entry for new folks to be in our industry, is that there will be more folks that are interested. And I see a lot of jokes. It's like, oh, like, oh, you have a base Zion, and dude, a base Zion to someone may be a Flair Jordan. And I remember when I got a Flair Metal Kobe when I first got into the hobby, or when I first got back into the industry or the hobby, I was so happy, dude. I thought that card was so beautiful. I'm a big 90s guy. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know I'm a huge 90s nut. And the Topps Kobe is my favorite card of all time, not even the Topps Chrome or the 50th. And like, that was like, I've seen guys that like get made fun of because they love a card that's worth like $50 or $100. And like, for me, it's like, that's not a hobby to me. And that's why I love the wrestling figure community. The wrestling figure community, it could be a guy that buys a figure once a year and he's still a part of the community. Like, yeah. I see it all the time where like people are so comp heavy in our industry. They're very big. And I used to say this all the time is that there's some dealers that are in the beholding of a comp, right? So, and that could work to your advantage or your disadvantage. Whereas in the wrestling community, yeah, of course, the last comp has a standard, but at the same time, if someone really wants to buy that figure, like myself, I bought figures here that are probably worth maybe a fraction of what they're worth now. And I don't regret it, because I've always, there's that love for having this figure. There's this love for this wrestler. There's this love for this moment at a WrestleMania or at this. Like, I think there's going to be more collectors in our industry that will have forever homes and we'll have forever PCs, unlike myself, who's a fake PCer, because now I'm over here trying to be a minimalist. But at the same time, there's going to be more folks that are going to gain interest in hobbyism. And I think the breaking community is going to make a huge factor of that, because there's going to be folks that are not going to be able to afford a full box of hobby. So the barrier of entry is going to be a lot less pricey compared to most. And the Fanatics thing is awesome, because you're going to see a lot of marketing material that has never been seen in cards or hasn't been seen in years. And I'm very, very happy to have a sponsor and a partner like Fanatics, because we'll have kind of that inside scope of like how it exactly works, right? But at the same time, on a consumerism, I'm a consumer as well. I'm really, really excited that we're gonna have some core quality product that won't get watered down, and they're not taking this very lightly. They're really, really trying to gear up for that 2025 or 2024, 2025 season where they'll have the full rights to actually manufacture these cards.
Nice. No, I appreciate that. It's good to hear that, you guys have good relationships with them, and, you look forward to just like continue to work with them. That's awesome. So just kind of switching it up, something else I was thinking about, because I know you definitely shouted out a lot of people just so far in just the interview. Like, what's one of the biggest things, or one of the things that you've learned like from somebody else who's been in the hobby like before you, whether it was the biggest thing that you learned or just something that's a key thing that you'll never forget or keep close to you?
So a lot of people that do not know, Mark Ultimate Pastimes is actually somewhat of a mentor of mine, and he's someone that I personally looked up to. Still looks up to him till this day. I don't think I'll be able to get to his level of wearing a polo every day, but
yeah, you can do it, man.
But I wear a great. I mean, I'm known for the gray and the black shirts. I mean, people don't know I'm sponsored by Goodfellow, the Target brand. I'm very big on on just making sure, hey, look, I mean, look, I'll still wear what I got. If it's nice, I'll rock it too. But I'm older. I'm an older gentleman compared to these young guys. So Cdub and myself, we got to keep it classy. So as well as Chuck E. Pops over there, we got to keep it classy. So
Oh, definitely.
so yeah, no, I mean, going back to Mark, the biggest thing that he's never even told me this. It's just kind of imperative of seeing how he lives and who he is as a person. And that's two things is to treat everybody the same. And number two, be consistent. Like the consistency is everything in our industry and in our game. And we see this all the time. Cdubs, there's guys that come back into card shows when it's hot, and then they're doing their own thing when it's not. And those are some of the guys that I don't really like to hang out with. I like guys that are very consistent, folks that are very, very wise in their choices and things of that nature. And the consistency, going back to Mark. I mean, dude, look, he's at every card shop. He's at every card show. He was at the kids trade night at Burbank last night. The man is a savant in our industry. He's a guy, going back to what I said about being the barrier of entry. Mark keeps it a buck, and he's able to vocalize and he's even told me, guys, and yeah, the Burbank Card Show, we're application only for our dealers, and I take full pride in that because we want to make sure we know all these dealers and what they're going to bring to the table, right? And Mark had kind of called me, and he's like, hey, look, I have this dealer that I think is going to be a great asset to Burbank. And I have this dealer, I have this person who I think could be an incredible addition. And I'd like to say all the folks that he's co-signed for us has been nothing short of incredible. And Mark's an incredible friend. He's an incredible big brother. Man, I mean, the guy is as consistent as could be. I can't really think of anyone else besides Rob on the area of consistency. And dude, no, like, he goes to yard sales. He's doing his thing. I mean, he's an incredible family man. It's no mistake the life that he lives. And the man has always told me the same thing. Nothing changes with Mark. He tells me the same stories all the time. And I used to think to myself, I'm like, I know he already knows that he told me the story, but it's the stories don't change. The stories don't change. The lifestyle doesn't change. Mark's always, and it's crazy to think of all the things that he said to me vocally. The two things that I've learned from him are things that I've seen, not necessarily what I've heard from him, but what I've seen him do, and seeing him succeed. I even called him yesterday because we're really trying to build the Dynasty Mode eBay page and trying to grow that. I just brought my brother in, and hopefully I'll bring my cousin in once he's back from Japan, and we'll have some of the best cards and best toys at our eBay store. And that's premise of Mark and his knowledge of e-commerce and his knowledge of building that up and his consistency. And man, I mean, look, it's going to be a sad day when that dude retires. So I hope he don't retire because we need him as much as possible. And yeah, no, he's definitely the pillar. I've always said this too. He's like the pillar of our industry because he's definitely that guy that connects us younger guys to the current beholders of our industry. So
yeah, that's really cool, man. I've actually gotten to know Mark pretty well just over the last 2 years or so. And the crazy thing is that I think is kind of cool and crazy is that you and I both know he has tons of followers on Instagram. I don't know, is it like, I don't know the number, 35, 40,000, somewhere around there, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And for him to just like respond the way he does, like to take the time out to talk and even build those connections, just even with someone like me or anybody, and it always seems like he's trying to help somebody. He's willing to give some knowledge to help somebody, and that's really awesome. I really appreciate that about him. So. Yeah, Mark's an awesome guy. Let's go to this comment. Let's see. I'm not sure who this is. Dex Flow Toys. I would love to see Cdub try to body slam EJ. No, that's I don't think that's I would never even want to do that. I mean, come on.
Me and Cdub will be a tag team. You know what I'm saying? We'll be a tag team.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. So I know that I have to say, first of all, I know we're talking a lot about Burbank. The show's going to be in Ontario. I'm in the IE, so I'm super excited
Oh,
about that.
there it is, bro.
So
There it is.
I saw that post on IG that you put
Yep.
recently. You're like, hey, this is for the IE folks. And I'm like, man, I'm so ready. I know last time I drove out to Burbank, but the thing is, I didn't complain because I was like, hey, I'm going to this awesome card show. But
Oh no, bro, I complain.
well, yeah, but
And I
but
run
you're a
the
little
show, bro.
farther.
I
You're a little
complain.
farther.
No, man, look, I mean, going back to what you said, uh, I mean, I look, guys, for those of you guys that do not know, you'll see this face more often than not, man. Like I call it as it is. I say it as it is. If you want to be a internet Wi-Fi warrior, I'll make sure to call you out. And those guys, I think one of the guys he DM'd me and said, "Oh, I wasn't complaining," and I'm like, "Well, I read what I read." So I will say this, like, I see it all the time, man. All the homies from the IE, regardless of which part, always comes to the shows. They always show out, Cdub, yourself included. I don't ever hear a complaint. I don't even hear a small ounce of Mark ever complaining, and saying, I've seen Mark drive, like going back to the kids' trade night last night. I'm in Vegas right now, and it was pouring. I could only imagine Southern California. And Mark
Yeah.
made that trip. And I've made the trip to Ontario, guys. I'm complaining. I'm originally from Long Beach and Orange County, so that drive is tough. And Jay's over here telling me it's 20 minutes. I'm like, my guy, it's not 20 minutes for me. It's 20 minutes for you. It's an hour and some change for me. And but I will say this, man, we're very, very proud and very blessed that our folks from the IE are gracious enough to allow us to be a part of the IE, at least for this show, right? But look, I was not a big fan of Ontario. When Jay had brought up the Ontario Convention Center, I had thought this dude is selfish. He was my terrible uncle, always making these decisions once more. And once we saw the venue, Cdub, let me tell you, it was one of those moments that I will never forget, because it was like, wow, like this is wild, and man, shout out to everybody in the IE that's in the hobby, some of the best people in the world. For those of you guys that aren't from the Southern California market, and for those of you guys that hear it all the time, the IE is not a dump. Growing up, the IE was my favorite place to visit. Man, I had a bunch of friends and that grew up in that area, and especially that Etowanda High School area. Shout out to my brother J Mac, Jordan McLaughlin, who plays in the league now. And when I first met him, he was still a young kid, and that's another guy at PC. I PC some of my homies that are now in the NBA, so that's really humbling to kind of see where he's at. And dude, he's an IE guy.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why the IE gets like a bad rep. Yes, it's a long drive. Yes, I understand. And for my Valley folks, yes, I understand. But it's not fair that you guys are about 5 minutes away from Burbank Sports Cards. So for 1 week, if you guys can, gas prices are down right now, and I know some of you guys have Teslas and things like that. So let's let the IE folks save some gas, and let's let them have their shine. I can't really think of a show that's happened in the IE Cdub that's of our
Yeah.
our magnitude. So man, and it's awesome. There's Top Golf about 5 minutes away. There's Ontario Mills that's literally about 5-10 minutes away. There's a ton of food spots, and then of course the airport's right there. So if you guys want to leave early and talk your stuff on internet, that's all good. You could leave early and get on that flight at the Ontario Convention Center. So, and that's the one beauty about our partnership is 2 out of 3 falls wins, and Rob and Jay chose Ontario. I decided to stay home, but luckily 2 out of 3 won, and I'm glad that we're finally doing it at a bigger spot. And Ontario is definitely our home, at least until February 13th. And until then, we'll decide where Q3 will be.
Nice. Sounds good, man. Now, again, definitely looking forward to it. Personally, hopefully me and Pops will be able to show up there together. So looking forward to that as well. What would you give? I know you talked a little bit about this, but what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's new, who maybe they're not really into cards, but they might be more of just a sports fan or whatever. Anybody who's just trying to get into the hobby, what kind of advice would you give them?
So when I first got back into it, there wasn't a Mojo, there wasn't a Sasha, there wasn't a an Instagram influencer, a YouTube influencer. There wasn't anything. I think there was just Beckett, the Beckett.com and the blowout forums. And I think one of the things that I had enjoyed the most about the hobby is education and being able to educate myself of sets and things like that. And it all started because I started with one or two cards or one player. So I've always said this is to buy one player that's your favorite player. And for that player, that was Kobe Bryant, and invest in one player. Or investing gets a negative connotation now and things like that. But at the same time, it's what in our industry we call prospecting, right? And at the time, I think when I got back into it, Luka was already getting his shine. Trae Young was already getting his shine. Marvin Bagley, for some odd reason, was still kind of like in the mix. And DeAndre Ayton, I don't know if you remember, he got in trouble, so he was suspended. And I'm a big Carolina fan, but I have great ties with the University of Arizona. I have a good amount of friends that went to college over there and played ball over there. So I was like, well, DeAndre Ayton, he's not getting the shine. His cards are like $1, $5 for the base cards, $10 for the silvers. So I bought him out. And I sent him out to PSA at the time. Shout out to my OG local card shop, Average Joe's. And my man Dave over there, he's like, why don't you send those at grading? And at the time, the concept of grading was very foreign to me. I was so confused. I didn't know which one was which. Like, I'm like PSA, BGS, ABA, ABC, WB, NBC. I didn't know which one was which. And
Right.
and I don't know if you remember Cdub. Remember those old, rest in peace, Don West, back in the day, QVC with late nights when he used to, sell all these cards, and it would be like in a GMA slab. And
Yeah.
I thought GMA was the standard, because I was like, okay, like this is it. And Dave was, I thought Dave was selling me, because of course he's at Average Joe, so I thought he was doing his job as an employee, but he was actually being a friend. And until this day, Dave's a huge asset. So shout out to Average Joe's. If you guys ever are in Orange County, pull up to Average Joe's. But so I ended up sending it to PSA, and I remember every other day I would show up, and I'm like, hey, my card's back. He's like, nah, man, it's gonna take about 3 weeks to get back. And I'm like, 3 weeks? Oh, bro, you didn't tell me 3 weeks. And man, I was complaining about 3 weeks. And Cdub, we're out here waiting for cards. It's been 6 months. I'm out here sending cards every month to PSA. And how long is it gonna take? 3 months? Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I don't need these cards right now. But 3-4 years ago, I'm like, 3 weeks, bro. What am I gonna do without these cards? And I ended up sending about, I believe, 10 8-ins that were silvers. I actually, at one point, I owned the white prism. And I had bought the white prism for you'll laugh now. It was like $20 on one of the forums and one of the groups. And it ended up being a PSA 10. I ended up selling it for $200, and I thought I was the richest person in the game. And I was about to quit my job. I was ready to go. But going back to what your question was, like, focus on that one player. Focus on that one player, and focus on that one prospect. And choose that one sport. Like, don't be one of these guys that goes, oh, I got the Herbie, I got this, I got that. Focus on that, at least for like a month. And then after a month, don't be like me that gets really addicted late at night when I tell my wife, okay, I'm going to sleep, when really I'm tilted to the side. I let my wife go to bed, and I'm really on eBay, making these last minute bids and things like that. So no, don't be like me. Very addicted. I have an addictive spirit and lifestyle. When I get addicted to something, Cdub, I get pretty addicted. So take it slow. Don't go above your means. Don't go out there and put things on your credit card and put things on your savings. Don't start with like $20. $10, start with that, learn different things, learn about sets, and learn. Till this day, I'm still learning about different things. I have my what's this called, my little case out, and learning like different sets, like a chromographs, like Michael Red refractor, like a very rare card out of 25, which to a lot of people, I found this in the value bin at the Union show, Cdub. And
Wow.
And I ended up looking a little closer. I'm like, whoa, this is a refractor. But at the time, they weren't doing too many chromographs refractors. They weren't doing too much. So the value of this card is a bit more than the I think $5 I spent. So it's one of those things to where learning different sets, learning different pop or not pop counts, pack pulls and things like that. And that's another thing. That's another EJ hot take right there. Is I believe that for years to come, there's going to be a value assessment on how hard these cards were to pull, and being able to do seeing all these 90s cards and seeing how hard they were to pull and how high they were able to grade. Dude, there's so much that we could talk to way over this podcast about many different sets, but it all starts from the premise of education. So yeah, for those of you guys that are getting started in our hobby, I will say this: it's one of the most fulfilling hobbies in the world. You will meet some of the most lifelong friends in this industry if you do it right. It's pretty easy to call who the fakes are in our industry, and who are those that you probably should stay away from. But look, if you have a core group of friends, and also that is start with some friends, friends that you could trust. Go to card shows with your buddies. Look, I mean, if the dealers gives you an attitude, let them know so I could be like Uncle Jay and kick them out too. Yeah, no. So look, guys, like it's just like any other hobby. There's things, and there's ebbs and flows. There's struggles in this, and there's times where now I just smile because it's just crazy to me, because these are just cardboard. It's collectible cardboard at the end of the day. And I'd like to say I'm probably one of the only few that could assess that, but it really is. But it's amazing that collectible cardboard could give you so much joy and enough enjoyment that you could put it on the back of your wall. You could collect it and have a special place for it. So very, 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 very big on that. So if you guys are ever getting into it and needed any advice, please let me know.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. So other than cards, other than wrestling action figures, is there anything else that you're like a fan of, or that you collect personally, or anything else that you do, like that you either collect, or what other than cards? Well, let me just stop there. Is there anything else that you collect that we didn't talk about?
On top of my head, definitely I've wanted to be somewhat of a true form of a minimalist, not necessarily in appearance, but in interest, right? And I'm very, very, again, I have an addictive spirit. I'm a huge fan of bear bricks, the Japanese bears, the collectible bears. I'm a huge fan of those. I just came back from Hawaii and I bought they have different sizes. These the 100%, which is about 3 inches. And then they have the 400%, which is about maybe like 10 inches tall. And then they have the 1,000%, which are the huge ones that you see from celebrities and, big ballers and things like that. And I just started collecting the 1,000%. And I had brought one back from Hawaii, and Cdub, it was not a joy bringing that around the airport. Luckily, we got it checked in and we got it back. Luckily, it's safe and sound in our living room. And, I collect that. But I think the biggest thing, and I hate to sound very, what is that called? Very hocus pocus, or very too deep, right? But I've started being like a big fan of experiences and being able to collect these experiences and these memories. Growing up, I will confess, I was a big materialistic kid. I preferred getting an Xbox over going to Disneyland and things like that. And I still probably do prefer a PlayStation session over Disneyland. But at the same time, the memories are everything. And that's why I love our industry, man. Being able to travel. I get to do this for a living, guys. Like there's a lot of people that make this a much bigger deal than it is. And yes, like I work 16-hour days. Yes, Cdub. Like after we get off this, I'm still gonna answer emails and I'm still gonna do what I gotta do. But yeah, I wake up with the same with the same mindset, is I get to do something that is a dream to someone. I'm in an industry where someone is literally, rocking boots and they got to do hard labor every day. Like for me, I've been an entrepreneur ever since I can remember. I haven't had a real job, quote unquote, a real job since I was 18 years old. Everything that I've done in the last 13 years have been things that I love to do. Right. So it's a humbling moment being able to not only be a part of that industry, but also being able to travel and being able to collect these memories with my friends. And, me and my friends, we always talk about, different shows around the country. And I've always told everyone in SoCal, like, hey, if you can make it to one Dallas show, at least try it out. It's funny now, like I could go to Dallas with my eyes closed, and I could make it to Dallas, and I could easily get there. And man, the lifelong friends that you'll meet in this industry is huge. And I'll share this one quick story. It was the end of the year. It was the last Dallas show. It was technically the last big show, and it was in November. And it was myself, Prevail Tim, Cdub. I don't know if you know Prevail Tim, but Tim's a good friend of
I've
mine.
seen him on Instagram, but I don't think we've really had a chance to talk.
Yeah. And Tim's one of like the premier dealers in our industry. I'm very proud of him. He's, in my opinion, he was the rookie of the year in 2022 in the hobby. And then my other friend, Goat City, Steven, he lives out in the Bay. And then also one of my good friends, Art, from Golden. Art's the West Coast director for Golden, consignment director. And, we all see each other, we're all homies outside of this industry. And we were like, you know what? It'd be cool to go to a Dallas Mavericks game. And we're all looking at tickets, and we're like, the tickets were a little bit high at the time. And I was like, no, let's wait a little bit longer. And they're like, why? And they're like, I kind of want to like sit up close. I want to sit close. They're like, front row. I'm like, I mean, look, we go to these shows, we spend thousands of dollars on cards, we buy, sell, and trade, we do all this. Why not finish the show or this year strong with a trip that we all could remember? And we ended up sitting about 3 rows away from the front.
Wow.
Luka is a true 6'7", 250. The guy is huge. The guy talks smack in Slovenian accent. The man is incredible. Man, seeing him play, I can't even hate on Luka. The man is a baller. And that team needs to be called the Dallas Lucas, because it's all Luka. I mean, yeah, Spencer and Tim Hardaway and those guys help out, Christian Woods, but it made no mistake, that's the Dallas Lucas. Like that man is incredible. I hate to compare because it's a little bit too premature, because he's still about 4 years into the league, but it kind of reminded me, like his aura is like what I will share with my kids and my grandkids one day, that I got to see Kobe. I got to see LeBron. Like when I saw Kobe play numerous times, but the one game that I could remember is that one game where he got the ball, that last minute shot type of situation. And that experience, even though he missed the shot.
Yeah.
That like 20 seconds where he had the ball was like, we're at the Staples Center, and I will forever call it the Staples Center, Cdub. I don't know about no Crypto Center. It's always going to be called the Staples Center. But that whole crowd was just quiet. And just seeing Kobe, it was Kobe versus it switched up on Serge Ibaka. They were playing OKC, that OKC team that could have been, right? I can't wait for a 30 for 30 on that team. But it was originally James Harden that was guarding him, and then it switched to Serge. And I was like, Kobe. So I take out my iPhone 3 at the time. It was like an iPhone 3. And I'm like, oh, man, this is it. So I'm doing that. And for some reason, he does his famous pivot. And he goes up to Serge, but Serge was smart. Serge just turned away. Serge turned away and was like, look, I'm bigger than Kobe. He can't see. So he ended up going like that. Man, when I tell you that ball went in and out, till this day, I'm still trying to find the clip. I have it saved on like one of my hard drives, because I store all my old iPhone clips and all that from years past. Yeah. And till this day, dude, that moment of 20 seconds was worth every dollar I've ever spent on going to a basketball game, going to everything. I keep all my ticket stubs, so that's another thing I collect, is just memories. I mean, just events and being able to go. I'm excited to go to WrestleMania this year. I'm going both days. The Final Four is the same time as the Mint Collective, so I'm really pumped for Mint Collective, but I'm also really pumped. Hopefully the North Carolina Tar Heels will make it, or at least, a UCLA or a USC or someone local. That way I could go to a Final Four, and that's off my checklist. I'd love to go to a World Series one day. And, the biggest thing that I personally wanted to do was create lifelong memories, not just with my friends, but with my family. I definitely wanted to take my dad and sit front row at a Laker game, sit front row this, and, maybe take my whole family out. I've done that numerous times already on a scale of driving, but I've never done it in a scale of flying. So I'm really, really excited to one day, be able to do that. Especially my sister. My sister had kids young, so she never really got to travel outside of coming here to the States. She hasn't been on a plane in almost 25 years. So, I'd love for her and my brother-in-law and my nieces and nephews to, have their first travel, outside of a car trip, right? So it's memories like that I now like to collect. And again, I don't mean to sound like an old head, but besides the Kobe and the Curry collection, and of course my boys in the back, I think it's going to be the memories and moving forward from here.
Awesome. So you mentioned Dallas, the Dallas show. I haven't had a chance to go out there yet. How many times have you been out there? Like, has it been like 5 or more? Or?
Oh, last year I've been there all 7 shows that they had, or all 6 shows.
Okay.
It was to a point that I would ask myself, what am I doing here? It was almost to a point where, and I love shout out to Kyle, Ruben, and Leo, the guys who run the Dallas card show, man. And it's a different vibe in Texas. And when people say everything's bigger in Texas, man, to be able to run 6 shows, and I hear it all the time, Dallas does it too much, Dallas does it too many times. Well, I see the same people come to the Dallas show and seeing the same deals being made. And I think the Dallas show is a huge pillar in our industry, because Burbank Card Show, I love it. I love y'all, but I definitely cannot do that more than twice a year. It's a huge amount of work for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, Dallas is definitely one of those. Cdub, whenever, if you and Pops ever get a chance to go, it's definitely an experience. Just kind of seeing how everybody, everybody does deals. It's a bit different than back home, right? I mean, people have their own types of dealings and stuff like that. But I will be reminisce and I will do a disservice to the city of Dallas if I had not mentioned the barbecue. And the barbecue alone is worth it. I'm a Hudget's guy. Shout out to Ricky the Collector, Travis, all for K Sports Cars, my boys. It's almost kind of a tradition that all of us SoCal guys band together at the end of the show, and we make it a trip to go to Hudget's together. It's like a team of 15 to 20 guys. And, we always get that, that last minute jail photo pose, type of thing. Well, really, we just stuffed about 5,000 calories in our stomach. But Hudget's is definitely a plus. And then, of course, Saltgrass, we're big. I'm a big steak eater as well. So, Saltgrass is a must. It's in my opinion, one of the best steak places I've ever been to. And Cdub, I like to eat, man. I don't know if people follow me on the gram here. I love to eat. I love eating nice. I love eating cheap. But also, Saltgrass is one of those in the middle where it's not expensive like a Morton's or anything else, but it's about the $30-$40 range, but it's so worth it. And it's about 5 minutes away from the hotel, Uber drive. And then Hudget's is about a 25-minute drive or a 20-minute drive, but man, it's so worth it, man. Hudget's and Saltgrass are my 1-2. So yeah, no, the Dallas Card Show is different, but I would be very disrespectful if I did not bring up the extracurricular activities.
Got it. All right. So you shared a lot of experiences, things that you've done. You traveled. You've had a lot of experience with, just being a dealer, putting on these shows as big as Burbank. Is this, when you were younger, is this where you saw that you would be, or where you thought you would be, or what did you want to be when you were younger, and has that mapped out to the actual reality of what happened?
Well, of course, like every other kid, I was a huge basketball fan. I was a big basketball player. I grew up wanting to be Jason Kidd. I was a point guard growing up. So, of course, making it to the NBA was a dream. And when I was 13, I played against a guy named Jeremy Tyler, who a lot of people don't know, was one of the players that decided to skip high school and go straight to professional basketball. I think it was 2009 he did that. But I had seen Jeremy Tyler, and Jeremy Tyler was 6'9", and he was 13. and I was, a lot of people don't know, I was a tall kid too. I was already about 5'9" in 8th grade, 5'9", 5'10". So I already grew. And my pops is about 6'2". I have my dad's side of the family, we're pretty tall. I come from a basketball family. My dad played professionally, and then, my uncles and my cousins, I have a cousin out there who's playing now in the Philippines professionally. So that was always my dream. And then, once I seen Jeremy Tyler I have a really funny story real quick. So they used to have this tournament called the Reebok Big Time Tournament in Las Vegas. And it wasn't actually Jeremy Tyler. It was when I got to see OJ Mayo and Kevin Love and Brandon Jennings and those guys. And I remember I was just like, man, I am never making the NBA. I am not making the NBA. So my next dream was to work or work with Nike. And that was my dream, was to work with Nike. I was a big sneaker guy growing up. And that dream actually came true. I worked with Nike for about 2 years on with the agency that works with Nike, and I got to work with some of the biggest projects with Nike. For those of you guys that do not know, Nike EYBL, which is one of the biggest grassroots foundations. I was a part of that project for a little bit, and then of course different other core T projects that I can't necessarily speak on, but at the same time, it's things that I'm very, very proud of till this day. My background's in marketing and design, so being able to fulfill that dream was huge. But it was very fast, like that whole thing that happened with me watching Jeremy Tyler and OJ Mayo, that I realized that this job wasn't for me. So my next dream was to help businesses and help them grow from potentially a 6-figure business to a 7-figure business. And I've done that. I ran an agency for about 4 years. And that was more of a consulting agency. I did that up until last year, and, never had any plans of selling it. Never had any plans of leaving that industry, because it was, I will be very honest with you, Cdub, it was great money. And it was less work. And, I had a great team, great clients. But I've always been that guy that would love to just do something that he genuinely loves to do. Right. And there was an opening, of course. And real quick story. I was moving to Vegas, and Jay and Rob was already figuring out Burbank. Mm-hmm. And Jay, actually, it's funny, Jay had recruited me. Rob didn't know who I was. I knew Ryan, I knew Burbank, and, I knew all the guys, John, Summit, all those dudes. But I didn't know Rob personally. Rob didn't know who I was. I didn't know Rob. And of course I knew Rob on Instagram, but I didn't know him personally. Right. And Jay had mentioned, Jay was like, hey, can you meet up? And I'm like, dude, I'm in Vegas. And, I have a wife, dude. So I'm like, I'm a married man. I'm not going to just drop everything. And at the time I was actually in the process of interviewing for AEW, which is the new wrestling company, and helped them out with social media. And I had a buddy that was internal and worked with social media, and one thing led to another, and they had brought me up, and that job was a dream in itself. But again, it's a job. So at that time, the whole Burbank thing happened, and dude, it was very quick. And for some reason I was just like, okay, I guess we're doing this fictitious project called Burbank Card Show. And it wasn't until April where there was an opportunity to let go of my agency and let go of the responsibilities I had. And I decided to take that leap of faith and get into our industry full time. So it was until April of 2022 that I was full time, and I actually made a pretty cool, announcement about it. I was like, "Hey guys, I'm going full time," and the comments were like, "EJ, I thought you were already full time." And I'm like, "Yeah, as far as time, I was full time, but as far as full time, no, I wasn't full time." So, and it was a bit of a dark cloud because I didn't know what to expect, but it goes back to my the hobby. This hobby was my first hobby. I grew up a basketball fan. My dad used to take me to Big Five and Target, and we used to buy all those, those, they're pretty much repacks, right? Where you go to Big Five and they were all these random base cards. And I used to go, I would look through the back of these base cards, and I would see oh wow, Michael Doliak, he went to the University of Utah. I was a 6-year-old kid, and I knew geography because of sports cards. And it's crazy looking back now, literally 25 years later, and I'm full time. My nephew, who watches all these YouTubers and stuff, he's 10 and he thinks he wants to do this, and I'm over here man, stay in school. But it's cool, man. I mean, it's cool to be in this industry. My brother now works with me, and man, I'm really pumped. My wife actually helped the other day on the eBay stuff, so it's starting to become a true family business. And And yeah, man, no, I'm definitely that's definitely a dream come true. I'll tell you that. So the NBA dream didn't come true, but maybe in my next life, God will bless some height in me, and then we'll go from there.
Got it. Got it. No, that's cool. Yeah, man, I wanted to play in the NBA too, but I'm like, 5'9", so
Yeah.
that wasn't gonna happen. But I did play a little bit of high school basketball, but I'm not gonna share much more than that. So
Yeah. No, same here, bro. That's how. Yeah, I hate. Like I will say this, Cdub. Like there's guys that are weekend warriors, and they relive their legacy and all that. Man, what I do is and my wife knows this really well. That little 10 o'clock hits, that little sidewall hits, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just relive my legacy in NBA 2K, and that's as far as it's gonna get, Cdub. I will tell you that. I'm very proud of my basketball career, but it will extend in the digital world, and I'll leave it at that.
nice, nice. All right, so we were talking about Mark earlier, and he showed up here. Just want to throw his comment in here. Two of my favorite people in the hobby. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Thanks for showing up here in the live stream. So you did talk a little bit about it. You just mentioned your career in 2K. Are you a big video gamer? Is there certain games that you play, or is it 2K only, or what?
Yeah, so it's 2K. I mean, like my friends I grew up with, they're on Call of Duty, so they're trying to get me to play Call of Duty, and trying to get LAN parties and stuff. Because I mean, I grew up on that too. I hate. It's funny. The entrepreneurship culture is now this like fast-paced culture of like, oh, read books every day and like do this. And I hate those guys. Like those guys are the worst. Those people are the scums of the earth. Like,
Yeah, you gotta read like 8 books in a year, man. Like,
yeah, man. Like you got to read 8 books an hour. Like, come on, man. Like, do you see how many good TV shows there are, dude? Like I'm not gonna read a like. I'm a big Rob. This is one thing that Rob and I gel with. We're big like mafia movie guys, or big Scarface, Godfather, Godfather. There should be a Cardfather movie. That would be incredible. I need someone to play me well, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, like Godfather. I'm a big Sopranos fan. I'm a big fan of Power and Stars and all those shows. So like there's so many things that like that intrigues me. Again, Cdub, like I said, I have a very addictive spirit, so I try to stick to like this one show and I go from there. But going back to video games, yes, I'm on 2K. Shameless plug, add me on PSN Dynasty Mode 92 if you want to get these hands in 2K. Let me know. But yeah, no, I actually wanted to do like a 2K tournament with the hobby, and maybe we'll do one next time at Newport. And again, guys, I mean, if you guys don't know, like I'm a regular dude, man. Like I'm not the type of guy that's gonna tell people like, hey, read 8 books a day. I mean, yeah, I wake up early, but I've been waking up early since I was like 8 years old. Like it's always ingrained in me. People think that I'm this workaholic, and yes, I am. I am a workaholic, but at the same time, like I love what I do. I really do. Like it's an incredible feeling, and to be able to be like, you know what, work sucks right now. Let me turn on the PlayStation. You know what? I don't have to answer this call from Jay right now. Let me go ahead and turn on SpongeBob. Like that's the beauty of life right there. And yeah, no, but yeah, no, I'm huge gaming nut. I'm actually gonna turn on 2K in a little bit too. So we'll go from there.
sounds good, man. Well, hey, I just want to definitely just say thanks again. I appreciate you taking the time. We can go ahead and wrap it up here in a minute. And just because I know that you're out of town, I want to be considerate of your time, and just I know you've been really busy with just even getting ready for the Burbank Card Show. So once again, man, really, really, really appreciate it. It was awesome just to get to know you better and just hear some of these awesome stories. I'm looking forward to Burbank, the next show. So, well, before we wrap it up, anything that you want to just end off with, anything that you want to share or say just about the hobby or anything at all?
Oh man, I will say this, man. Thank you, Cdub, for allowing me to be a part of your platform. I find a huge amount of enjoyment in being a part of platforms that are sneaking up on success, and I like to credit that to consistency and seeing you at shows is. And growing our friendship as well. I honestly, I didn't even know who you were until you posted the little highlight tape, the little hype video for our first show. And I remember I texted Jay and I was like, who is this guy? This guy is cool. And man, it ended up being Cdub the master, man. So Cdub, thank you so much, brother. I know I appreciate and man, forget my time. Man, thank you for allowing me to share my stories on your time, especially Chuck E. I appreciate you, Pops. I hope to see you soon. And yeah, please come by the Burbank Card Show, guys. Man, it's going to be an incredible experience. Our tagline is simple, but surely in due, and that is experience the epicenter of cards and collectibles. We're really, really excited to provide that for Southern California. And man, it's going to be an incredible weekend. Super Bowl weekend. Yes, I hear it. I hear it. Why Super Bowl weekend? Your team ain't making it anyways. So come on by. And it's not going. Look, bro, the Chargers already lost. So that's about 80% of y'all. So I need to see y'all Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Man, it's going to be a great time. If you see Cdub, make sure you say what's up. And Cdub, I want to say this to you real quick, man. Stay consistent. I'm really big on seeing folks grow. I think that's another thing that I love seeing is folks grow, and I can't wait to see my brother Cdub with 100,000 followers. And I'm really pumped. And man, thank you. And I'm humbled, man, that you allowed me to be a part of your platform. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Appreciate all the kind words. And once again, I really appreciate all your time and just even the insights that you gave us today. So I look forward to meeting up in the future. You take care, man.
Take care, brother.
All
Peace.
right. Peace.